What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Web3 DJs. I'm your host, Sticky Finger Jones. Got my co-host here, Hofstra, the faithful, and we have an outstanding guest lined up for you all today. We're going to answer the age-old question here on Web3 DJs, the home of the hottest projects, biggest influencers, and best conversations on the blockchain. So what is that question? Well, you probably guessed it. Who is the legendary boredspaceape? Welcome to the show, Space Ape. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I think that's kind of like a great place for us to start. We always like to do just a little introduction of our guests. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, who are you outside of Web3? Maybe where you grew up, where you're coming to us from today. Any cool thoughts? Anything like that? We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, sure. What's up? My name is... I go by Space in Web3. My real name. I'm coming to you live from Texas. From my house here. Go Spurs, go! Even though we have a lot of things to be sad about lately, so it's a yeah. I just wrapped up my day job. I work for Microsoft. I act at Microsoft during the day, and then DGen. By night, the last year or so, I've kind of been trying to take it down a notch. Pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think we resonate with that a lot. Work by day, DGen by night seems to be like the motto on this show. No question about it.
It's like work by day, DGen by night. I like
that. I want to make sure I write that one down. That's actually a good idea right there. Yeah, so you say that you work for Microsoft, and forgive me if I'm misinterpreting this, but on your profile it says these may be two separate points, but it says Web3 at Microsoft. Are those two separate points, or do you do Web3 work with Microsoft?
Yeah, I do Web3 at Microsoft. Early stages, and I can't talk like a ton about what I do specifically, what we discuss and everything, but just what I can talk about is the fact that I do spend time focusing on what Web3 is and kind of trying to help different aspects of it and the trends, especially in the consumer space, and then I think Microsoft should do about that.
That's awesome. Hofstra, and he can elaborate on this a little bit, but we were literally just talking about like institutions flooding to Web3 and what that means for this space. What do you think about that, Hofstra?
Yeah, no, I just recently, we had Starbucks. I was telling them about We New Labs, all the connections between Bored Ape Yacht Club and 10KTF and all the people behind that. And like low key, there's been big money coming in the space, big name companies. And so like, it's not getting the same kind of hype maybe it would have got last year, but I think just for me, it's super bullish. And we don't even know what's about to hit down the road, but with that many people coming into it, it's exciting to see what's coming down the road. I know you can't talk about it, but I'm like, man, if Microsoft is looking at it, that's like, I can't wait till one of those big companies comes in, because they're going to come in a big way. And I think it's going to switch things up quite a bit.
Yeah. In general and different companies, I think it's definitely, and since we sort of saw a shift compared to last year in terms of like, I kind of called it Web 2 season especially in the sort of like NFT, like drop a project, like base. It just felt like there was different players sort of afoot, changing, and some of that for the negative, but in some ways you see like these restful moments where like Adidas, for example, release their merch via an NFT burn and claim, and then the drop of the next NFT. So all of that's going pretty, the time for the merch and all that, like the mechanics of it and the numbers of the sale at Adidas. Like, I'm sure you're looking at that and you're like, we just made a lot of money on, and you can see how much money they've made and how much money the project has made and their revenue and everything, right? So you can see their royalty amount. You can see the amount that the project brought in. There's even tables of split was between like them and Punks, and I think even BAYC. So and I would put the Tiffany's Punks drop like in a similar bucket where it's kind of like a brand well, but like with the NFT, twist. And then you have, which I would say is more of like a longer term investment, like a longer term play, and not just like a project drop, but it's more of like an integration with something that's core to their business, which is their loyalty program, their rewards program. That's starting to look a little different and like a little bit more of like a maturing and longevity of the space project that everyone's going to clamor to buy, and it's going to mint out in a day, and everyone's going to, like that. But having a brand and like say what you want about them and their coffee and brand, like tons and tons of reach, their loyalty program, which is used by tons. And now, it's not released yet, but when it comes out, it's going to be integrated with the blockchain, right? So, and I think, awesome to see, like as a person and an active person in the space, but also working at a company, to see the trend of like other companies taking.
Yeah.
So how did you end up getting in the space? It sounds like you've been in it for a little bit. Like, what was your entry? Were you into crypto prior, or how did you make that intro?
So I got into the space in January of 2021. The way that it started was I got a lot of just like, and I started seeing a lot of stuff about Wall Street bets and just sort of like it caught my attention because my background is in psychology and biology. So, how people work together in groups is sort of at the core of that. So I thought it was really interesting that like people were organizing themselves driven, right? Like this was like an organic movement, like from the internet, sort of like a self-driven, became mobilized enough to make a little blip, like at like that. Just the system is so big, right? Like we are just so small. You just don't see that kind of effect immediately. So that like really interested me. I don't think, besides politics, where I feel like it was used against us, I feel like we haven't been in this way, like societal, and like in America, like there's a lot of things like that, but just like, societal movements where technology somehow facilitates. So anyways, that got me interested. And then of course it's like, okay, like, and I saw like a fleeting tweet that was like, Doge is the, and I was like, what is a Doge? Like, I don't know what this means, but the thing is, and I know what the story is. And so like, if there's a wave coming, and like, this is really happening. So that was kind of the bug and why it interested me. I was about to move from Texas. And so I was like, moving costs money. I've already done it a bunch. So I know to make money for the move and like not pay for the move from like this random thing that I've just discovered. Right. So I decided to take $5,000, which like I had to think of an amount feels beefy, but like, and like worth the time and thought lost it wouldn't be the end of the world. And like I had finally gotten to a point where I felt like, my job, like I could lose $5,000 and it wouldn't kill me, but I could put it in, and like if I'd be crazy, right? Like I'm not a gambler. In no normal way does a person just double like the logic that I had. Well, it's all kind of a blur from there. It was at like 0.007 or some shit. It did end up going up. I don't remember when, like there was a spike, and then Robinhood I could sell or I couldn't, or like, I don't know, dude, because everybody who's in the space knows that time becomes a blur. It went up like crazy in a super short amount of time. And I was just like, oh my God, like this, I was just like, this whole space is real. Like I'm now taking seriously something that I don't know anything about that. have time for that, whatever. Now I'm like, okay, this is worth paying attention to. Something is happening here, and like you can make money. And along with that, I'm learning about chain. Like, how does this work? And so I'm learning about like decentralization and like, because again, right, in like the sort of human organization of each other, of themselves. And so like I'm just like deep in the rabbit hole. And like, by the way, this is from like February. Like it's just like this deep like, I'm just like suddenly looking at charts all the time. I like found this random guy on Twitter. He has an Excel sheet of charts dated and gave away for free all the time. So I would look at them pretending like I knew what they meant. And 3 a.m. it's supposed to spike. So I would set an alarm and I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and I'd be like, oh my God, it's spiked. So I was pretty hooked. So I think I probably put some more money in profits, and instead of taking it out, like just rolled it over into some other random coins. Like the money that I needed to move, like I never took the money back out. Like I was completely in. So from there, it was all about crypto. But it was kind of like, boring is not the right word because it was exciting, but it was just like charts all day, right? Like number go up, right. Number go down. Talking about NBA Top Shot. And I'm like, I love the NBA. Like I love basketball. Because again, all of the home base. I'm on Twitter every day. COVID has happened. So, we're COVID. So it's like, we're just home. So I have both my screens, my work computer, my personal, and people are talking about NBA Top Shot. So I get into that a little bit, right? So like all that people take when you talk to people in the space. So that's like a backdoor to the on the blockchain with an NFT, but I didn't really realize it because you could use your credit card. Like there's all these great sort of entry point. So I did the pack drop thing for a while. Actually, I never ripped anything. I have all my packs. I held them all. I like bought some moments, way too much money on some random moments that like I'm never gonna get back. Like it was part of the, and I always think like, the like the Web3, there's kind of a toll. Like you pay your dues, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Like because you learn by doing. It's like losing money. It's like I was putting money in, I was learning. It's like learning by a little bit of a fee. It's like you're going to school. Like they're going to take their tuition. So I went. Zed Run kind of filled the like, what do I do in between drops? This is to do with the cards once you have them. Zed Run was like a whole trip. Like
I went down that one. I went down the Zed Run. I was like, doing guys, the same
I'm gonna breed horses.
Oh my God.
And like, can you imagine my family like from 1 month to the next? It's like in January about crypto. I'm talking about coins. I'm like, there's this one called Algorithm. There's Algo, and then there's so Doge, and then all these things like Soul, and then I'm like, okay, forget all of that. You got to get on
like
the
digital horses. I'm breeding digital horses.
Yeah, and then I'm like, okay, and then I'm like, yeah, forget all that. We got to get on for the horses. So, I'm realizing that I seem insane to the truly. Like I'm like, I sound insane to myself, but at the same time, I cannot stop. Like I'm by everything about this. So I did Zed Run for a while. I have like a really awesome like female, and I had done all these things and balling on a budget at the time, reading. And so I was like the Rain Man with all my papers and my planning, and they literally they stopped everything. And I was like, well, now it's horrible. And we waited forever. Like everybody was like, where is breeding? And that's when Bored Apes dropped it, because I literally was bored waiting to do something. And I had seen them before because I was like, I don't really know where I need to be in this random club. Like I'm busy planning my horse stable. Thank you. So I was like, well, I guess I'll circle back to that thing that I didn't understand and like see what happens, because that's what this thing is. But the last thing was cool, and then it led me to this thing, and this thing's even cooler. So
So when you went into Bored Ape, like how hard did you ape into that? How many of them did you buy?
On mint night, I minted it's ape number 1356. So I was the 1,356th minter. I minted a few others, and also like sold them, and then like to mint straight, like I want to mint another one. My sad story is that I minted a 4. For people who don't know, like a 4 trait is considered very rare. Like it doesn't have a plane, but that's kind of like they're very rare. Like they don't appear a lot in the collection, and I quote boring. So there's lots of fun stories inside of this. I minted some, I sold some, minted some more, watched it sell out. I literally watched as the ticker ticked, over the line, and then secondary was disappearing, and before 24 hours had passed, we already had our first derivatives where people were turning apes into like graffiti art, buying them. So it happened really fast, and I need this to like, oh my God, I completely understand what this is, and I need like.
Yeah, that's crazy. What is your count at, and do you have a favorite? I guess maybe your profile picture might be your favorite one, but do you know what your count is at this point?
You're like almost up there with Franklin. You're like halfway there.
At the first 30 apes, and then he's a madman and made it to like 60 and 61, and I was 30. But yeah, I have 30 apes.
Good
and
night.
Then strategy where I've kept like the mutants. Like I put way too much value in sets. Somehow going to be more meaningful. I think like the gamification of NFT less, I feel like there was more that about this in other things where I've, this has come up. So yeah, I prioritize sets. So, and then 24 mutants, and like 22 of those for the apes, and then 24 dogs that I think all of them except maybe one are matching with their ape, and then 55 to 54 lands that go with the 30 apes and the 24 mutants, and then also a mega coda land during some of the post sale last year, and then the ape coin that came with those.
That's such a badass story. Oh my God. Just the fact that you minted and you were able to get that many, like that's fucking awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, after minting them, it was like just something inside of me was like, you have to get, I don't understand why, but I was like borderline crazy, but just like, okay, go with it. And just spent, I could look at the blockchain to see exactly when, basically from minting it, then ETH spiked, and I had run out of money because I put it all into that, and it was a few, but it certainly wasn't 30. And like I just started converting everything I had, or getting a paycheck and waiting for an ETH dip, like minting something and flipping anything that I could to get as many apes as I could before they ran up too high. Of like, I've bought some since where it's like, oh, I sold it at 100 and I rebought at 7, that stuff. But like me still on the grind, like the last one that I bought was around 5. That was the last one that I was able to, like, I put money in, I flipped some stuff, traded two for 2 apes for another 2 apes plus ETH, like just, scheming and dealing, and got that ape at the ape for 5 ETH.
Yeah,
might have been my 29th ape. Yeah.
Great story. I was checking out like the last sales in your wallet, and it's it starts at like 0.12, 0.199, 0.2, 0.28, 0.38, 0.4,
Yeah.
0.45, 0.5. Like, I mean, you were just like adding the whole time. Talk about conviction.
Yeah. That's about how much they were. A little bit of a splurge. And I think he was like 1 ETH at the time. And it was like, I do regular floor ones for that, but it was a gold grill. And at that time, I mean, I was in the market, like I was watching OpenSea, every day. I had different tabs, and I would just cycle through them, refreshing them, watching the floor price, like looking at other stuff had come out, like serums, like dogs. Like there was a period where it was like, and like I could tell you, the prices of stuff, like how been recently, like if something was a crazy thing or a normal thing, like a steal, like just, it was crazy. But yeah, it was that I just felt like I need to get as many as I can. The IP value and the first to market first seemed to have that part, but then the IP was really the more important part. I have the power. Like I have a piece of a whole. Whole goes super far or not. It's already made it as far as it did. So that's historic. You know what I mean? Like historic. If they keep going, cool. If they don't, I got this. And then on the flip side is like whatever you wanted. Like you could slang t-shirts on the corner if you needed to. And that could be like sort of like freedom and like empowerment in that idea. And so I just felt like,
Yeah, for sure. So I got kind of two questions. They're not exactly related. So the first one might be an easy one. We can just, if you have a story, for sure, feel free to share it. But this, and so first, have you attended APE Fest? What was that like? And then two, I really like how you talk about the IP kind of being one of the main drivers for you. So do you have a plan for your apes for the future? Any thoughts? Is it just hold right now and see what comes? Maybe you can't talk about it, or are you planning on leveraging your IP somehow?
Yeah. So I can talk about both of those. I did go to APE Fest. I went to it was in like October of 2020. Felt like it was really important because it was the first in-person event. If you're kind of looking at all of this as like historic sort of moments, I felt like, because the very first event was on a yacht or, a boat. And it was in the bay. It's like, this is the pinnacle of the club, right? The year had been just a crazy year. I sometimes call it like lightning. You watch these stories about certain cultural moments or certain the star or artists, and it's like very much that vibe where it's like this was the community aspect of what was happening, the amount building and creation in the space and like sort of shared like adults like having fun, but also like doing serious stuff and making cool and sort of, it was very special. So yeah, went to the first one and felt like stone on everything that happened, and that like everything that would come next feel different, just inevitably, right? Like as things progress and grow, the beginning is not going to be. So yeah, I went to that. It was really cool. The ticket experience was kind of wild because there was lines and stuff and people complained. But to be honest, it was really cool to stand in line, like hung out and talked. People just would pop by, and like this dude was giving out bananas. It was kind of like being online, but in person. And at least for me, like I went the agenda, so I was ready to stand in line if I had. Like I've been to Coachella, like I've been to. You have a lot of people together at once. Like it's
right.
That's gonna be the thing. Like I'm not planning to go see others. I literally took like a red eye and was in the line with my luggage. Like I 4 a.m. to like 6 a.m. from Virginia to DC, and I'm like just took my luggage straight from the airport. I didn't even go to the hotel. I was just standing there with my luggage the whole time. You know what I mean? It's like this is what I'm here for. That and the boat thing was cool. The warehouse was cool. Really cool be a part of and like meet everybody. Like I said, I met Franklin. You know, we hung out in the front of the stage during all the concerts. You know, I have a wristband for the warehouse, and we bumped into each other while I was getting merch for my friend, but she was actually not going to come because my other friend like had his, and he was like, "Oh, I don't need this one anymore." Like, "Oh, I just came to see if I could get a wristband because, you know, I don't have one." And I was like, "Oh, well, you know, my friend has it." So I got it for him. And then he was like, "Oh, let me buy you a pizza." He was like, "Oh, yeah, I was the guy giving out." And I was just like, "Dude, I had a banana," you know? So it was just like, it was just a really cool, you know? So yeah, APE Fest was cool. That was the first one. I did it. I felt like I had already done it. I didn't really understand why it was so soon. Tempo wasn't that much later. I was like, didn't we all just see each other? My brother battling lymphoma. So, you know, it was just like I was spending time with him. You know, I feel like I had already done it and I didn't really need to do it again so soon. Format was different. I've seen pictures. It looked really cool. Snoop and Eminem dropping, you know, their music video there is cool. So definitely like had a little bit of FOMO, but you know, it is what it is. Had other stuff going on. So yeah, that's APE.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was out there. I remember like people in the hotel having their wristbands like in banana outfits, like headed to the party. And I remember, I was like, shit, I there's no way I could get in, but I remember people buying mutants just to get into the party and just bumping into all these people. And it was, I think you're right about that historical cultural moment. I wasn't a part of that one, but I was there in New York when all that stuff was going on for NFC NYC. And it was definitely different than this last year.
Yeah, people were dressed like on the boat, especially. A lot of people, you know. So I had planned to have like before it was even happening. The time we met, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be dressed like in a spacesuit," you know, like. And a lot of people had the similar idea. They're in the smoking jacket, you know. They've got a captain's hat. Like I knew when people would walk those Captain's Wiggly. You know, like I knew who it was, which was funny. I had to go on short notice, so I wasn't able to go dressed up and everything. But it's definitely like in terms of there's a lot of stuff going on, but there was an element of just like joy and fun that I feel like as an adult we hadn't felt. I know I hadn't felt in a long time, and like even like I remember the one to reveal like they dropped the dogs. No one knew they were coming. There was other projects like this, like, you know, mic drop moment of it's not hard to drop a companion project. Like, what, you know, they didn't reveal right away. So we're like, oh my God, what do we get? It's almost like your chance again at mint. What did I roll? Oh, like, what if it's gold, you know, like just dreaming. And reveal, like I was just like, my heart was racing and like, I was like, oh my God, like being a kid, like waiting for Christmas, like you can't, like, you just don't feel like that stuff just doesn't, you know, like there's just a level of here-ness that life reaches. So I don't think you feel that as much anymore on stuff because again, now we're used to it and it's a mint and it's whatever. But like when everything was happening too, it was just like, you know, there was just a feeling of joy. And I think that to me is like what we were sticking around for.
Yeah. So I definitely want to bring this up because I know we're kind of coming close to time here, but this is one of my favorite things about you. Of course, your story is really awesome, and obviously your portfolio is really cool as well. But what I really enjoy about you is you created this kind of getting started with NFTs Canva, and it seems like you're giving back to a space who is, you know, giving you so much. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about maybe why you did this, what the thoughts were, who Bored Collabs is, APE Productions, and just like, you know, like for somebody who is a novice or beginning in the space, why this is such an important tool?
So Bored Collabs is just kind of like a loose network of apes doing cool shit together. Version of the FT in the Super Bowl as well in February. So, this was a different thing. Like I've done a few things in the space. We didn't get to talk about IP, about the good old days, but I am very active in using my apes in license a few licensing deals that will be like more information, utilizing my apes and stuff, and that's something I've been working towards all year.
Oh, nice.
This is what I like to do in the space in terms of like just try to like help do my thing people and like trying to use Web3 for good. So there's the project itself is a project by my brother who, like I said, he was diagnosed in October of last year, actually right after I got back from Ape Fest. We've been dealing with that, through all of this and treatment. I kind of was telling him about NFTs and just trying to, give him something to, and kind of like a hobby and something to focus his time on, while going through this treatment. And so he created this through like what the process was to, do it in layers and how kind of the framework of an NFT. And he really took it from there and did all of the artwork and he decided the charity that he wanted to donate to, that the leukemia, which does research and gives back, to people who are struggling with that and their families. So give 40% of the mint to them, which is really generous. You see other projects do donations and stuff like that. So I wanted to just help him. Like it was something that he, purpose and it gave us something to kind of bond over together. And the reach doesn't have to be huge. We've had about 100 mints, like 64 owners, but you'll have like one or two people message. This project really hits home because my father, passed away of this in the night, just wasn't there. And, like similar stories, realize that something that you've done has like touched someone on like a human level. And at the same time is going to continue to fight that cause. So I helped him with that and bringing it to market and realized I don't even know how to get to an NFT. So I made the guide just as something to go, for people who don't know what's going on. We need to help onboard them into the space. And I'm one-on-one helping people set up a wallet, like go to Coinbase, do this. I've onboarded numerous people one-on-one, but there comes a point where like you got to try to scale, what you're doing. One attempt at that. Ape and Productions is another, ape group, famous for being the collab with Timbaland.
Nice.
But Jay Tenenbaum and I worked together, and I don't know. Somehow we got to talking about this, and he had like a Word document thing for another project, and I just asked, hey, let's bring this to life a little bit, and let's co-share the credit for it, because we're both just trying to do the same thing and help people, like a something that's like kind of scary for some people, the blockchain. And
yeah, absolutely. And to our audience, to anybody out here listening, if you're trying to onboard somebody into Web3, don't know where to start, we have the link to this in our video description, and I will say I highly recommend it. I have not seen a more thorough and a more, I guess, easy to follow instruction manual on Web3 yet. I mean, most of us, I'm sure you guys are probably the same. Most of the instructions I got are through Twitter Spaces, and me just like having to press that request button and come up and saying, hey, how do I disconnect a website from my MetaMask? Something like that. And to have the visuals that you put together here and the way that it's thought out and pieced together is really beautiful. I enjoyed it a lot. So make sure you guys check that out.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hofstra, what you got for us?
No, I'm just blown away. It's got me thinking of like last year and like this
good old days.
Oh man, I remember that. I mean, just the Zed run. I like caught it maybe 2 months after you did. The whole reason I couldn't mint a Bored Ape is I didn't know how to mint. I didn't know how to connect the wallet, like the
You
concept.
needed
I
the
didn't
Yeah.
have
guide.
anybody that
You
could show
needed the
me.
guide.
But I was there. I was around. Like watched the whole thing. I
I
remember
get
when the
it.
floor price was going up, and everybody was just tweeting like it's at 0.7. Oh my god, it's at the, and everyone was going nuts. And yeah, that's honestly, I think that's what forced me to like buckle down and learn crypto and how this stuff worked, is because I missed out on so many opportunities that I was just like, oh, and I knew timing is so critical in anything. And if you catch it early, that's the biggest opportunity to make money. And I knew that the clock was ticking. So yeah, it was a really fun time. But no, I think it's awesome. And I was just thinking, like, when you're going to get a job in Web3, all you have to put on your resume is like, I own 30 apes. It's like,
No kidding.
what's up? Want to hire me or not?
Yeah,
You know?
most definitely. That I actually am pretty certain if I was in that position that would be somewhere on my resume or my LinkedIn, to say the least. So I do have one more question for you. I meant to bring it up whenever you were talking about Top Shot, but you said you're huge into the NBA. You love the NBA. I'm in Dallas, so choose carefully. But who's your squad?
I mean, I think I said at the beginning, go Spurs, go. I mean, this is
Oh, okay. I guess I missed
yeah,
that piece, but yeah,
yeah,
Spurs
yeah,
ain't too bad. But
yeah. No, I mean it's typical that a Mavs fan when I said the Spurs, but it's okay.
here's what we say
It's
about
okay.
Spurs fans. Everybody makes mistakes. We won't hold it against you, right? So
I don't care about basketball.
No,
so
when it's someone that's not Texas, I'm going to go for the Texas team. You know what I mean? Like I was rooting for Dallas. It kind of fell apart that one game, man. I was just like, dang, like that was it. It was just like,
yeah, it was definitely, but it was still exciting. It was great for the city. Great for like our friend groups to go out and have another excuse to get degen. We'll say that maybe that's a professional way to degen on a Tuesday night, in real life, if you will. So yeah, it was definitely an awesome time. So I guess just kind of last question: is there anything else that we should have asked you about that we didn't bring up?
no. I mean, I feel like we covered, a lot of the.
Yeah,
I feel
absolutely.
like we could have stretched this for like 5 hours just asking about like all those different things and how it happened. And
Yeah, I do
Yeah, I
my
know
best
I was
not
I'm
to
like, I
jump
want to
over
get
the
it. I want to
goals.
get it down and dirty.
so
There's
if
way more that you gave us the cliff notes. There's way more in there.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know I joined a little bit late, so if you have other to chat more, if you want to have a part two, you just let me know. Like I said, I do
Hey,
this all day, every day. I do it at work.
That's
I'm
it.
traveling
I
to
do it
Texas a
not.
lot. I was actually just in San Antonio. My buddy, who's also an ape holder, his name's Rowan. He's in Houston. So I know there's a lot of ape holders out there, but maybe next time I come out, I'll hit you up and buy you a coffee and sit down and just pick your brain.
Yo, he has not
Yeah.
ever offered to buy me a coffee. What in the world? Like, we've been doing this show. What's going on with that, Hofstra? Put him on the spot right now. We need two things from you
Sorry.
if you're watching the show. Number one, if you want to see a part two, make sure you let us know in the comments. Number two, everybody tell Hofstra he's not a great co-host because it's like I'm sitting here parched. I need some sort of hydration, and this man is offering to buy everybody anything except for me. So make sure you guys let Hofstra know how you feel about that. So that being said, it's been really great to have you on the show today. It's been great to hear your story. Like Hofstra said, I mean, there's a lot of good nuggets in there. Honestly, one of the coolest stories that I think I've heard. Sometimes people just kind of come in with this like wealth and see, okay, here's a path to success. Let me just spend some of my non-disposable or my disposable income here and like, let something happen. But it seems like you really like you grinded a lot like me. Unfortunately, my success story isn't quite as grand yet. But yeah,
Yet.
you learned the crypto. You really like understood what a blockchain is, and then I really love the psychology angle that you were able to bring and put that together. I in college, whenever I was going for my graduate degree, we did a lot of like case studies and tried to apply them to business. And I won't lie, like my whole this space, I've thought that this is going to make like an excellent case study someday, you know, like whether it's from a consumer behavior perspective, whether it's from, I mean, any aspect of business, as a matter of fact, you can kind of like find a nugget here in what's been happening in Web3. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we really appreciate you guys coming here. You know, this is Web3 DJs, home of the hottest projects, biggest influencers, and best conversations on the entire blockchain. If you enjoyed this type of content, the number one thing you can do is tell a friend about us. But the number two thing you can do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. Until next time, I am Sticky Finger Jones. We got Hofstra and the legend, now a face to the name, Space Ape. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Until next time, everybody. Peace.